Welcome to Half Century Hangout, where different paths lead to the same table. I'm your host, John, joined by my friends and co-hosts, Luke and Chuck. We're three guys who grew up differently but became good friends with a lot to talk about. On this show, we bring our unique perspectives to the table and dive into everything from current events to life's big questions. We might not always see eye to eye, but that's exactly why we're here. To listen, to learn, and change our minds sometimes. So grab a seat and join us for honest conversation, unexpected insights, and a few friendly arguments. This is Half Century Hangout, where different perspectives make for better discussions.
All right, we're live.
Gentlemen, how are we today?
Hey, pretty good, Luke.
Yep.
Doing well.
Yep, doing great.
You know, it's kind of one of those days where there's a lot of things going on today. I mean, we're not going to necessarily give what day it is, but boy, I think by our conversation, you're going to be able to tell what day it is that we recorded this.
It is a very busy day, isn't it?
Yep, a lot going on.
A lot going on. What we have talked about, and you heard it in our intro, is we're just three guys that want to talk. I mean, we talk about different things. We talk about a lot of things that are happening, not just in our lives, but just everywhere, right? The things that you hear about one day at a time. And we'll pick some topics and we'll move and we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, not quite sure where we're going with this, but I think it'll be a good time for us to. I love the part of our intro where we're actually, wanting to learn and admit where we're wrong sometimes. So, I know there's a lot of areas in my life where I think I've been wrong before and maybe still am.
And I think that's probably the biggest thing that we could lead into our first part of the conversation that we had talked about was to kind of define each of us so you all can get to know us a little bit. Just kind of define where our North Star was. What guides our life? What guides us day by day? What do we think is important? What do we think is things that we work toward? What do we do? So, well, John, why don't we start with you?
Start with me.
Sure, let's start with you.
North Star.
Sure.
What's my North Star? I think that the thing that guides me the most is probably family and helping others. I became an educator because I really wanted to help others. Started out my life as a banker. I don't know if that was helping others, but helping others buy things, buy houses, help them get to live on their own and all that kind of stuff. But then moved into education, which is kind of a family tradition in my house. My dad, grandma, mom, sister, wife, everybody in my family seems to have something to do with education. But so helping others and family, big part of my life. And also my faith is a big part of my life too. Yeah. So those are some North Stars. I think
it's hard to define just one.
It is. The biggest one probably is the helping others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tell us a story like where you think you helped someone, and it was like it not only made an impact on them, but it made an impact on you.
Wow. That's a
kind of
a tough one to think about. So I guess from education, many kids in education over the years that I've been in education, and one that really stands out is a kid that was really having a struggle coming to school, having a struggle being in school, having a struggle just being around people, and really took that person, that young man under my wing and helped him to understand kind of how to work with people, how to be himself around people, and that people weren't necessarily it's hard in schools, hard in high school,
Mhm.
but how people weren't necessarily looking at him and judging him. It might have been him thinking some of those
Right.
things.
Right. So he's like had a perspective.
Yeah, he
Right.
had a different perspective,
Right.
and just taking that perspective and showing him how we might need to change that perspective a little bit. And it worked out really well. We got him to school, got him working, graduated, just a success story.
Yeah. You see him much now?
Helpful. You know, it was one of my many stops in education, and
Sure.
it was a ways away from here, so I don't
Yeah.
see him a whole lot.
Yeah.
If I do, I certainly will say hello. But yeah, I've seen a lot of kids over the years that say thank you, and sometimes I don't even remember their names. I hate to say that, but
Right.
you don't even remember what you've done with kids or for kids because
Yeah. Well,
you know you just do it naturally.
yeah, with as many kids as you probably impacted, hard trying to remember one name. You know, is
it's
probably
difficult.
a little hard.
It's always difficult, but in education, I think that obviously you're in contact with a lot of people, whether they're adults, whether they're kids. I mean, there's always going to be somebody. And over the years, we are the half century crew here. So we've seen and met a lot of people over the years. So
Right.
it's one of those things that we can.
By the way, that doesn't mean I've been in education for a half century.
Correct. I have not either.
Only a quarter century.
I think
Maybe a little over.
tagging off of what John said, I think that one of the things that I've always looked at is that as I've gotten older, it's kind of like, you go out in the middle of the night out in the backyard with your wife and you want to look at the stars, and you see the Big Dipper, or you see whatever you see. But then if you go out, a week later on a nice clear night, they're not in the same place. Those North Stars kind of change where their position is. So when I've always looked at this kind of question when we were thinking about this earlier, mine's kind of changed. And as I got older, one of the biggest things that I've looked at is in our world, I think there's a lot of people that really have a lot of anxiety about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've learned is really I just need to do the best that I can to control things that I actually have some control over.
Right.
All those extraneous things that are always in our kids' faces and in our faces from social media and from the news and everything else. So many of those things we don't actually have any control or responsibility for.
Yeah.
So I really try to live by the idea that I do the best that I can to control the things that I can.
Yeah.
And to do my best to make sure that I'm also listening to others and making sure that my focus is not tunnel vision. I really try to, in our intro, I know we put that in there, that we want to make sure that we can talk with people and have discussions without it being adversarial.
Right.
It doesn't have to be just because.
And that's a rare thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is, but you hear it so many times where, it's this fight to the death of over something that you think or that I think.
I mean,
And just because we both think of something differently doesn't mean that you're wrong and I'm right or vice versa.
Right.
It doesn't mean anything. As we're sitting here with you with an Ohio State shirt on and me with a Michigan hat.
Exactly.
I mean, we can still be friends.
Over here.
Well, you got something on.
I got something.
I mean, come on, John.
Let's not start the first show with that. But I think that's, really trying to be, if you want to say, a good human being, to really just be that person that can listen, that can learn. I mean, I think as I've gotten older, my dad used to tell me all the time about common sense, but I think it took me a while to really figure out how to actually learn something. There was hands-on, there was always that, like I'm a better learner when it's hands-on. But I think that listening part and really thinking about it is the way to do it and the way to learn and to grow.
Yeah.
We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
We do, John.
We have 2 ways to hear and listen. And really hearing and listening are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we can hear a lot of things, right?
You bet.
And a lot of times while we're hearing people talk, we're actually thinking in our mind how we can maybe come up with a different way of saying how we're right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to actually listen and still, say, okay, I may not agree with you completely, but we're still friends and we're still
listen without judgment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ted Lasso has a great great quote. It's a great show, but he has a great
We're
quote.
going Ted Lasso
Ted
in
Lasso.
the first episode.
Yes.
Wow.
He has a great quote that says, don't be judgmental, but be curious.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just love that. So
He
anyways,
says it's from Walt Whitman. I don't know. I've searched, and it's different people that it's attributed to.
well,
Yeah,
I'm sure it's Apple.
it's in Ted Lasso. That's for sure.
That's their rendition of it. I think when I think of a North Star, back when I was, 16, 17 years old, I was reading the Bible, and Psalm 37:23 came up in that particular reading for that day. And it says, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. Though he fall, he will not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholds him with his hand. And so I guess my North Star is knowing that there will always be, like, whatever steps I take, I know they're being directed by the Lord.
Mhm.
They're being directed by God. And under his providence, things may not always be perfect, but they'll always be right at some point. It may not be comfortable, but they'll be right. And I think the guy that kind of really helped me process some of those things and was a guy named Rick Click, who was a high school teacher when I was growing up.
Wait, what was his name?
Yes, you heard it, Rick Click. Yeah, and maybe he'll listen to this at some point. He'll probably see it out there somewhere. But
Well, if you are, Rick, welcome.
Yes, absolutely. But he made a huge impact on me, and kind of helped me develop what that North Star for life is going to be. And here we are, almost 40 years later.
Yeah.
And
I think it's funny that you say that, because I know that was one of the things that I was thinking about as we were talking about topics and things to talk about, were people that have had a huge influence in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And in a meeting that we had a couple weeks ago, we were talking about that, and I remembered one of my teachers, his name was Mr. Wire, and he was a very soft-spoken but very direct teacher, and he also had the best penmanship I'd ever seen for anybody up to that point, probably since then. And he taught a class that was called Modern Communications Media, and I was taking the class, and I was my high school educational career probably wasn't a whole lot of things to write home about as far as academics goes, but I remember writing a paper about something, and he gave it back, handed it back a few days later, and in red ink across the top, it was, Mr. Peterson, the hole that you are digging for yourself is beginning to resemble the Grand Canyon.
Oh, wow.
And I remember it hit me, and I was like, I could probably do so much better at this if I really put my mind to do it. And I think his quote there kind of stuck with me. Like, it made me realize that, hey, somebody realized what my potential could be.
Called you out on it.
And I wasn't even thinking myself of making myself or driving myself or being motivated enough to make myself better. But just that quote from him, I think, did a huge thing for me to help me be motivated. And I think those are the kinds of things that we as leaders, as we aspire to be leaders, I think that that's something that we need to do, is find that somehow with the people that are surrounded around us to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is, like John said, about helping people and about doing something, it's finding whatever that is for somebody, being able not only first to highlight it, but then to get that person to understand it.
Yep.
Which some people have a wall up. Let's not lie. Some people have a wall up and they don't want to hear it, but I think it's important for us to be able to do it.
Understand it and then act on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, is getting them to
Yeah.
actually do what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Walking the way of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Doing your work
Yeah.
in the way that you need to do your work. And
Yeah.
And I think it's
Yeah.
important too, even just saying that and thinking about it as I'm talking, is that we still have to circle around to that and say, we can try to guide somebody that way and we can do what we can. But again, whatever their perspective is, they might have something that we don't know about
Mm-hmm.
that's driving them in a different direction. So we need to be aware of that. We need to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to force this person or push them. I'm going to continue to try to guide them if they want it, or if it's my spot to be able to do it. But I think we always need to be cognizant that there's something, possibly, maybe, whatever, that they have going on in their mind or from their experience that's holding them back.
And
Yeah.
that's the listening part that you talked
Yep.
about earlier. You got to listen without judgment so that you can get to that trust.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
trust. And anybody can be a leader. Anybody in any part of the organization can be a leader. Any part of the school can be a leader, and give that influence by listening without judgment, helping that person understand where they are,
Right.
and helping that person get to where they need to be.
Yeah. You know, being in all three of us have been in the people business for a long time. I've not been in education, obviously near as long as you guys have, from a public education perspective, but, you know, I've peopled a lot, you know, managed people quite a bit over the years. And, I think that's exactly, you're nailing it, John, you know, listening and then, you know, acting on, you know, that to try to build that trust with people. So, that's a good.
I think we should
Good
probably
first
I think we
question
should- I think
there.
we should
Well-
probably get a little elephant out of the room here is that I didn't know if it was going to be broached today, but we probably should, and just kind of let everybody know that all three of us work together.
Yep.
We do.
We work in the same high school building.
Yep.
We all have different roles in that building.
So we work in a high school, and that means, folks, we work with ninth graders who are 14, 15 through 12th graders who are 18, 19. And that's a fun age to work with. It really is. And it can be a challenging age to work with as well if you have any teenagers at home.
So those things that you'll hear us talk from, that's some of our perspective. As you heard in the opening, you know, we've all grown up differently, different areas of the country, different faiths, different religions, a lot of different things.
Yep.
But in our years together, we've learned to be friends, and we have a lot of engaging talks, and that's kind of where this was born, was to be able to share some of those experiences with people and to get people thinking on a different perspective on different things, and to open people's minds up a little to some stuff that maybe they hadn't thought about before. That's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, if you guys agree, and I think that we kind of all did, and I think it's important for us to do that, because now in this modern age, right, there could be people listening to this from wherever.
Yeah.
The other side of the
Iceland.
world, for all I know.
Who knows?
And which is cool, but scary all at the same time. But you know what? It's neat to be able to have your voice heard, and to hopefully, you know, if we open up somebody's eyes, we open up somebody's eyes.
Yeah.
You know, it's all good.
Hopefully we do.
Wow, where'd all those people come from?
I don't know. They're outside the door, I think, just ready to.
I hope they're not
ready to rock
really
it.
outside, because it's pretty cold out. But I know as we had looked through some things, I mean, we were talking about some other stuff where we had, and just as we've started this up, and again today is just kind of a get to know us, and you know, hopefully to get to you too, to know you as well, and if people commented on things, so we could kind of see where we were at. But one of our initial names was Bourbon and Banter, wasn't it? Wasn't that one of our names that we had talked about?
I think we ran that.
That was one of them. We didn't want to center our whole, you know, basis of listeners around bourbon,
Right.
But that does flow once in a while.
Okay. Occasionally,
You know,
absolutely.
occasionally it does,
Yeah.
and that's good. But it's something where, again, we wanted it to be a place where people could come and talk and just be open about things and talk about things. And so one of the questions that we had talked about was a hypothetical situation, but we're all married guys, and we enjoy, you know, spending time with our wives, and we just came up with a little hypothetical where you walked into a nice bar with your wife, and it'd be weird if this actually happened here, since I don't live anywhere close to where I grew up, but you happen to see a friend from high school, and he comes over and offers you and your wife a drink that he'd pay for. So, John, what do you think if he said that? What would you order, and what would you order for your wife?
Well, because I know my wife really well, I would order her a sweet drink, and something she really likes is Moscato. So if they didn't have a Moscato, we'd figure something else out. But
So it's probably
Moscato,
wine.
Moscato is what she would do.
Okay.
Not necessarily always wine, but
Okay.
but Moscato is a good start. For myself, I would order a Blue Moon. I'm kind of a craft beer type of person, and
With the orange?
enjoy. I would have the orange,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
And usually I eat the orange before I drink the.
Oh,
Yeah.
good to
So
know.
that's
Okay.
what I would order from a friend if they offered me a drink and my wife a drink.
Yeah.
Chuck, what about you?
Well, I would, my wife's drink would be Sex on the Beach.
Oh,
Yeah,
my.
absolutely.
Okay.
That's a drink that she really enjoys, and we've had it a number of times. And my drink would probably be a red. I think it's called Red Breast. Is that right? It's an Irish whiskey. Does that sound familiar?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's either red. I want to call it Redhead, but I know that's
What's in the drink? Irish whiskey?
it's just an Irish whiskey on the rocks.
okay,
I'll drink it
gotcha,
neat or on
gotcha.
the rocks. It depends on who
It's
I'm
the
drinking.
brand.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's
brand.
called Red Breast.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
a buddy of mine, he had some at his house, and we were sampling his
Yeah.
many bottles of Irish whiskey, and that was
Yeah.
one of them. So
Yeah,
it was
very nice.
delicious.
I do that sampling once in a while too. I have a friend that we, change where we're at, either at my place or at his place, and we'll try to get different ones and test them and see. And there's some bottles that are still on the shelf that aren't the
Right.
greatest. There's other empty bottles that wind up in the recycling bin.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends.
So
but-
Chuck, what kind of whiskey is that? Smooth whiskey, or is that one that kind of goes smooth?
No,
You know what
so
I mean?
it depends. I mean, I don't know. An Irish whiskey, I like a smooth Irish whiskey.
Smooth Irish whiskey.
If I'm not drinking Slain, it's like a Jameson's Irish or
It's
whatever.
got a little bite to it though.
It's got a little bite to it,
Yeah.
but it feels good. It's not like, doesn't taste like turpentine going down your throat. So
Yeah,
I mean,
wants
it's
that.
Gotcha,
it's not
yeah.
a bourbon, it's
Right.
It's a whiskey, so it's
Mhm.
you got to kind of get a taste for it.
I always thought bourbon to me kind of tasted like what an ashtray smells like to me. I don't know why. It just
I would
cannot
tend
get into bourbon.
to shy away from that. I do usually tend a little bit more toward bourbon as opposed to just whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, both are fine, and I've found both, with either. But if I was at that bar, my wife, I would get her an amaretto sour, and for myself, I would probably get an old fashioned. And if they were able to, I would get a smoked old fashioned. Which I know, Chuck, you and I have talked about this a few
Yep.
times, but
My son just bought me a kit to smoke my old
good,
fashions. Yeah.
good.
And you have one, Luke, right?
I had one, and it's currently inoperative. But I'm looking to purchase. I've seen a few different ones, so I want to maybe try out a few of those and see what I can find. But
Yeah.
And is
You
that
know.
just a hood you put on, or what?
Yeah.
there are different ones. There's this place. Actually, we've a lot of times it's just a hood that goes over the glass, and you have a torch of some sort. You put whatever flavor wood you have in the little
Yep.
holder, and you torch it, and it kind of seals the glass and it smokes in there. But there is a restaurant up in Sioux City that my wife have gone a few times when we go up there for events, and they actually bring the smoked old fashioned to you out in a cake tray. Which, if you picture a cake tray like with the big glass with the glass thing over the top, they put it in the middle, so it's more a presentation than I probably would have in my garage.
Sure.
But it's there, and it comes out, and the smoke is all curdled inside, and she kind of walks it out like a waiter, holding it up in the air, and then pulls the top off, and the smoke goes, and everybody around you smells like they're at a barbecue or something, which is great.
That's
And,
awesome.
but it's good.
That might be something I would try.
Yeah.
It's
I think you'd like it, John.
It'd be good. We can, and one of, we've talked about where our venues are when we record, and one of those, or a couple of them, might be out in the garage. I have a little establishment in my garage where I'll sometimes sit down and solve the world's problems and talk with friends and see what's going on. And, I think that it's one of those things that we can always figure out where we're going to go. I think one of the other questions that I had, and again, this is just kind of you guys, all the listeners that are there, just learning about who we are and kind of what we are about. But one of them was, what's your favorite season of the year?
Oh, jump all over this. So one of the things I really like to do is drive my Jeep. I have a Jeep YJ around, and it's a 92 YJ. I love it when the top is off. And so I take the top off in April, and I try not to put it back on until November. This year, it was like the second week in November, I think I got to put back on. And so all of that being said, my favorite time of the year is, summer for sure. The hotter, the better. I don't mind the heat. I like being around that thing. My wife and I go on different trips, hit some trails. So yeah, summer for sure for me.
John?
Boy, I have always lived in this same area, and we're a place where we get all four of the seasons. And
although lately, as time goes, spring seems to be getting shorter.
I'm getting
and shorter.
there. I'm getting there. Fall and spring, both to me, seem to be a little bit shorter. And around here, my favorite season is actually fall because it seems to be the weather is the nicest during the fall. It's cooler.
Sure.
It's not as cold as winter. The one season that I wish we didn't get to as much is the winter with the negative
like we have today.
Yes, like we have today. But I like the fall. I like the sports that happen in the fall. I like watching football. I like volleyball. I like those kinds of sports too. And just enjoy that weather in the fall. I just wish it would last a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Spring I like too, but spring I love soccer, so I like watching soccer in the spring too. But spring it just seems to be the weather around here is windy.
Weeks.
It's cold one day. It's hot one day. It's rainy. It's which is good. I mean, it's good for the farmers.
Yeah. John and I see eye to eye on this one. Fall is my favorite season by far, really. Not just because of the sports. I'm a huge football fan, but I also like to get out in the woods, see the color. The colors are big for me. And we've actually, my wife and I have tried. I grew up in Michigan, so there's a lot of color in Michigan. I mean, here we're in the middle of cornfields a lot.
Right.
But lots of colors up there. And a few years ago, we were driving through. It was pretty much right at the height of the color season, and we were just in awe, and I hadn't seen it for a while. So we've actually purchased a few autumn blaze maple trees to get some orange in our yard and some things just at fall time to do that to, build a bridge between the green that we have all summer and then the brown that we have now,
right?
Which is complete brown. Everything, the grass, everything is just, it's brown and drab. So
it is gorgeous. The colors. I used to work at a middle school over in Omaha, and I had a perfect view out my window of all the colors that would change in the fall, and you could see it change day to day.
Yeah.
And
that's one of my favorite things.
Great.
I don't mind winter so much. I just don't like if we're going to have cold, I want to have snow.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree with you.
C.S. Lewis says, in his Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, he talks about how it's always winter but never Christmas. For me, it's always winter but never snow is like miserable. You know,
it's kind of, I don't want to say depressing, but it is kind of depressing because it's just, you're just freezing. I mean, it's cold.
Yep.
And this morning was crazy. This morning it was pretty darn cold. But
I am not a big winter fan.
Yeah.
I'm not a big snow
like I said,
fan
with snow, I could hack it more if there's snow.
Yeah.
Because I also like to go ice fishing. So,
Right.
I've got to have some cold to be able to do that. But the snow helps me a little bit. At least it's like, okay, well, I got something here.
Yeah.
Plus, that's good for the grass and the trees and everything else. Right now, we're still in a drought, which now they're calling it a snow drought. So, we go from one
I've
end
heard
to
that
the
term.
next. Yeah.
Hey,
I think so. I think we're kind of coming to the close of this first episode.
Yeah, I think we're there.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I know we had talked about was that I always like to. I'm kind of big on quotes.
Yep.
And I like to throw quotes out once in a while from, some of them might be that we don't know who said the quote initially, But some of them we do know. And this one was from an author, H.G. Wells, which I'm sure you guys are both aware of. And it basically was just a kind of an uplifting one that I've always used. It was, if you fell down yesterday, stand up today.
Oh, that's good.
And I think that it's important for us as we're all in education, that there's days, where, it wasn't the greatest day, or I didn't do my best today, or some things kind of got in my way. But you come back to school the next day and you're ready to go, because there's a lot of people that are counting on you, a lot of kids that are waiting for you, and it's one of those deals. And, Deion Sanders even mentioned that not too long ago. He might have a bad minute or a bad hour or even a bad, couple hours, but he never has a bad day. And I think that's a good thing to kind of live by, to just keep it positive and to go forward. And even though it's -2 outside right now, we're smiling, we're here. Chuck's got a big game tonight.
Yes, we do.
Big game,
big national championship game.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
I've got mine on today because my flag is still outside, because we, in terms of the University of Michigan, are still national champions until tonight.
Yep.
So my flag is out. It will be down tomorrow. I will not be flying the next flag of whoever the next one is, but I'll be willing to say that we are no longer the national champions because somebody else won, and which is great, which is good. So,
yeah, I think I tipped my hand a little bit on the quote that I really like. It's that one from Ted Lasso. Be curious, not judgmental. I think that's just a good, especially in our day and age and what I do now. It's easier to come in and when you're dealing with students or people in general, and kind of have that that person's really messed up, or they didn't treat me right, or I was disrespected, or whatever the case is. But man, you never know what type of day people are having whenever you see them, whether it's in a school, or whether it's in a church, or at the convenience store, or at Menards, or wherever. You never know what kind of day people are having. They could just have a significant loss. They could be doing something really great or whatever. But be curious. Be curious. Don't be so judgmental. Right. I think that's a good thing to live by.
Huge. I got one that I have had for several years. It's trust the wait, embrace the uncertainty, enjoy the beauty of becoming. When nothing is certain, anything is possible. And that's Mandy Hale is who it's attributed to. And I just, over time, we all get to a point where maybe things aren't quite as certain as we'd like for them to be.
Right.
And so getting to the point where you can stand back up and move forward. And trust that wait.
Right.
Was that the doorbell that just went off?
I don't know. I think we maybe just tipped our hand where we're recording.
Oh, we might have.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
But all right, guys.
Hey, have a wonderful day today and evening whenever you're listening to this. We appreciate your help and listenership. If you do, we want them to.
So here's I think ways you can help build the show. I mean, this is literally the ground floor. Just obviously subscribe to the podcast. If you have questions, we do have an email, halfcenturypodcast@gmail.com. So we got that set up right now. That's the way we're set up to receive questions and reviews or tips or.
Now you said that they could like the podcast, right? Like they could like it or subscribe. Is there a way that they can love it?
Man, I don't know. Maybe there's a love button.
There might be. If there's not, we should make one. I mean, really,
Yeah, gotta.
Well, this is Half Century Hangout, and we appreciate you hanging out with us.
Have a great day, folks.